I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about true crime and psychology. Thank you so much for joining. Let's hop right into today's topic. Let's go.
Thank you so much for joining. I wanted to do a follow-up video on the Netflix documentary Unknown Caller because number one, it's creating a lot of discussion over in the comments. And I will go through some of those comments and some of those questions. I've been interacting directly with some of those comments and some of the questions. If you have not watched the documentary and you are okay with spoilers, I think going in knowing the big reveal helps you view it from a different perspective. I could go back and watch it a second time to see what I missed, but honestly, th mm, that documentary is one of the most troubling things I have seen in a very long time, and so I don't want to do that again. And I think being honest about that, because there were a lot of people in the comments that were just like, "What TF did I just watch?" Like, "My mind is blown," and that is a normal reaction to that documentary, and I do think the producers, the people that, put out the documentary, I think it was organized in a way that would take the viewer on this journey where you start out kind of confused and they're pointing the finger in different directions, and then all of a sudden you are like, I was watching it on my phone. Um, so I watched it earlier in the day. If you are gonna watch it, I do recommend watching it earlier in the day so you can call a friend, you can schedule an appointment with your therapist, like you can like um I've recommended because I have some people that want to see it, but they're not sure how they're gonna react to it. And I've literally said, do it right before our appointment. Like don't I would hate for you to have to sit with all of those thoughts and everything that comes up for you. And so I am trained in managing emotions and managing everything. And a lot of people are wondering, why would the mother in this case, why would she agree to do it? Why would the other families agree to do it? And it is an interesting story, but these are real people's real lives. And so I've been careful. I am a psychologist. I'm not Kendra's psychologist. So there are a lot of diagnoses going around. And even when I talked about cyber Munchausen by proxy, which was just one of the experts threw that out there, I don't think Kendra's actual diagnosis is public. And the thing I like to do on this channel is break stigma with mental health. There are people that don't have mental health conditions that do crimes. There are people that do crimes that do also have a mental health condition. And to me, there's no mental health condition to excuse what happened in that series. And that wasn't what my video was trying to do at all. My video was trying to give education because I really like empowering the community. When we hear certain words, when we hear certain terms, I like to help us break it down. For me, what was most troubling about the documentary was that, and if you don't know anything of what I'm talking about, please go back and watch part one. So we are talking part two. These are the people that are trying to process and still wrap their brains around what they've watched and what they've seen. Some people are still trying to get an idea of who the different characters are. And so I will share that. And so and a lot of people have thrown out different ideas. And I cannot, diagnose anyone. The one thing I do like to do is there are sometimes people do behaviors and they might not fit neatly into any particular category. This reminded me of the sadism from Ruby Frankie. Like, because when I thought the Ruby Frankie case was one of the most disturbing things, like when going through Ruby Frankie's journal, I was like, how could somebody be writing this about their child? How could somebody say these things to her child? And then this situation took it up a notch. And so, wow. If you do have questions, please make sure to just put QQ or question marks. That just makes it easier for me to see them. And I liked how in the documentary they had that cousin that I think provided some balance to sometimes you don't realize just how much you've been lied to until you step away from a person. And I'm not one that always says, go no contact. That's not something that I typically say. In this case, I just not knowing the case, not knowing like I saw the documentary and definitely have whoops, that went backwards, and definitely have some concerns. I did link this article down in the description. I like to source when I get different ideas, when I get different information, I like to put it there. If you know nothing about this case, please know the woman pictured here is Kendra, and then her daughter is Lauren. What happened in this documentary is we start off knowing that the text messages in the documentary are true and real, but then you find out that the mother is the one that is behind it. And a lot of people in the comments have said, isn't this like so we certain words we can't say on YouTube. Isn't this essay? Like, especially the messages towards Owen and even the sexual nature of the messages to her daughter, wouldn't that be, wouldn't that meet criteria for something like that? I like to explain something about the DSS and Child Protective Service process is that sometimes when things are a little in that gray, because to me, I would definitely make the call. So it felt like that to me personally. And so I would have made a call. Sometimes it's a judge or there's a defense that's put on. Sometimes it's up to the court that then determines what constitutes legal harm. But as a therapist, as a psychologist, if I have a client coming and saying they experienced all of this, it would be, especially right as a teen girl is going through puberty and having doubts about themselves and everything. It was just wow. And so somebody else have I watched profiler Pat Brown's video? So I have not watched that one yet. I love it when people share different ideas about this. And Phoenix, please and the good thing is I've already given you the big shocker. So the messages that are shared in this documentary are, when I say trouble, like they are not it's not YouTube friendly, and it is what we find out later, a mother telling her daughter, like, I'm doing this with your boyfriend. I'm doing, he doesn't want you because he has me. I'm paraphrasing. Thankfully, those messages aren't stuck in my brain. I don't remember exactly what the messages were, but that was the gist of the messages. And then the messages to this ninth grade boy were like very, very sexual in nature. I want to do this. I want to do that. And so it was very, very troubling. So in this article, they talk about like why would Kendra agree to do this, and she pled guilty to 2 counts of stalking a minor and was sentenced to 19 months in prison, which a lot of people were upset that that was less time than even the amount of time that she had been stalking her own daughter and her daughter's boyfriend, then ex-boyfriend. Um, this whole thing was just wow. All right. And so I don't believe I'm just being honest, me as a person, when Kendra talks about why she sent the messages, I don't believe her. So let's talk about that. Okay. So in the documentary, I heard a lot of excuses. It felt like Kendra was trying to explain her side of the story, but to me, there seemed to be this obsession with Owen and this jealousy of her daughter. And even the fact that, because in this series, Kendra tells her daughter, so trigger warnings, Kendra tells her daughter to unalive herself. Exactly. Yes. So I've given you, yes. So for over 2 years, and Phoenix Rising, it's to the point that the messages were 40 to 50 messages a day. It turns out mom was unemployed. And so mom was spending her entire day and night just messaging all of this. And so, okay, so that's the big thing. To me, I didn't get the feeling that Kendra had changed just person. And so I don't know her. I don't know her therapist. Like I don't know what's happening in this. But if Lauren was my daughter, I would be concerned about some of the things that Kendra said in the documentary. One of the most concerning being like, we all make mistakes. There are people that have, driven drunk and not been caught. But like, wait a minute, it's still wrong. And because it almost seemed to be like, everybody's made mistakes. People are trying to make a big I don't know, like, that's how it felt to me. Y'all can correct me in the chat if y'all got a different feeling, but that statement sent me over the moon. So let me pull up my messages to my friend. So I told y'all that I was messaging my friend, and that's a true story. I was messaging my friend Kalita as I was watching this. Um, and so let me go back because it starts and okay, and so I messaged her a lot. I was so mad. I was so mad about all of this. Okay, let me see where it starts. Okay. And so I text her and I say, I have 33 minutes left in the show. How sway? Wow, I can't. She's like, "Girl." I'm like, her emotions in the interview, she seemed to be crying for herself and for getting caught. So those were my general thoughts. I felt that Kendra, she seemed and also, like, she's probably sad that she can't see her daughter, but also, like, I don't if I was the dad, or even if I was Lauren's therapist, there would be a whole bunch of work, possibly a parenting capacity. So that's a thing. Let's talk about that. A parenting capacity is an assessment that assesses, does this person have the capacity to parent? Should their parental rights be terminated? Termination of parental rights is very, very rare. And I very rarely recommend or say somebody should look into that. Individuals, in my opinion, I don't know Sarah Boone, but like if I was Brian, because Brian could work towards terminating Sarah's parental rights. If I was Brian, because Sarah, she's only concerned about herself. My own personal thoughts. She's not really concerned about her child. Everything is about revolving around her. Does she have the capacity to parent? Because to parent, there are some fundamental basic things that need to be there, and some people don't have it. I do not do parenting capacities because it's heartbreaking work because you're sent these referrals normally by Department of Social Services. Normally, the individual has been involved with the system for a long period of time, and it comes to a point where they're saying, can they do it? So we're asking them, we have this parenting plan, we're asking them to do all these things. Do they have the capacity to parent? And uh and hopefully so I haven't thrown out a diagnosis, right? I haven't thrown out a diagnosis for her. We're just talking in general about these types of principles and how to help the people that are impacted by it, because a lot of people in the comments have talked about how watching this series, if they had a parent that was shaming and blaming and demeaning, or if they had a parent that was jealous of them, or like, and it came out in this obsessive way. There are people that I don't think have the exact same experience that Lauren has had, but there are some people that have had similar experiences, and this show was incredibly triggering for them. So when we talk about parenting capacity, that would be something that I would, if I was, and I'm not involved in this case at all. If I were involved, I wouldn't be talking about it. uh, I would be looking into a parenting capacity. Does this individual have the ability? And that's where they do intensive personality assessment. They do attachment They do assessment of the attachment. They also take a look at parenting stress. How does the person handle and manage those things? They take a look at all of these things. And so okay, thank you. Uh, so I get and so people in the chat are gonna throw out their thoughts, and so it is what it is, and if people put in their opinion, we respect other people's opinions here. Uh, and then Lauren said, I thought this was important. It's sad. So so that's what you thought, Lauren, that Kendra is sad that she can't control her daughter. It sounds like she controlled the daughter and the husband a little too. This whole thing was just it was a lot. It was a lot. But let me go back to that article because they talk about why did Kendra agree to participate in the docuseries. So normally in true crime documentaries, we don't always get to hear directly from the person charged and convicted of a crime, but Kendra was interviewed exclusively by so I don't know who Borgman, excuse me, I don't know who that is, and her team. Maybe that's the producer. Maybe that's the producer. Let me look that up. Borgman, unknown caller. I wonder if that's the producer. Sky. So Sky Borgman. Okay. Uh and okay, so that's somebody involved with so I don't know for sure, but I'm guess yeah, director. So Sky Borgman is the director for the series. This made the reveal that Kendra was behind the bullying even more shocking, and I agree because she's interviewed from the very beginning of it, and she's talking about her thoughts. Like I I was getting the vibes that it was an adult, and I was hoping it was somebody that didn't know anybody at all. I was until the cyberbully started giving personal information, so calling Lauren by her nickname and sending a picture at an event where Owen was at. I was hoping it was just somebody that was external to everybody involved. I was not prepared for it to be the mom. I'm just being honest. All right. And so Borgman said the process of getting Kendra to appear wasn't easy, that most of the film was complete before she agreed to talk. Ultimately said it seemed Kendra was interested in sharing her story directly with an audience. Okay. That was appealing to her to sit down to tell her story from her perspective and that Lauren could see her doing it. Now, the only bad part about that, so I don't think her telling the story went well. I don't think it went well at all. Thank you. I just took out my twists, so I still have a few twists that are still in. I just took them out before. But I don't think Kendra's side of the story, because even her trying to say, "I experienced my own trauma, and that's why I was trying to protect my daughter," that didn't make any sense. And if it was truly so to me, if it was truly about protecting her daughter, it would have stopped after Owen and her daughter broke up. So that's where I personally felt, I don't know that it's true, but this is what Owen's mom thought. It seemed like the real obsession was with Owen and that her daughter was kind of in the way. That's how it felt to me. It didn't seem because everything continued even after Owen and Lauren broke up. So it's just it's a lot. Welcome, welcome. Hi. So somebody said my daughter and one son asked me if I saw this. Yeah, it was beyond disturbing. I agree. It was and I wouldn't have watched it if I didn't do a video. So I was planning to do a video on it. So I watched it with the intent of taking notes to do a video on it. So I watched it from a clinical perspective. I wouldn't have just watched it for funsies. Like I probably would have stopped it about like with those 30 to 20 minutes left because to me, the worst part of the docuseries was like the last 30 minutes. Like that's where I just kept getting madder and madder as like when they showed the body cam video where the police but it's a small town. I don't think anyone knew exactly how to handle the situation. As a therapist, I was upset that Kendra was allowed to tell her daughter, and there was no other safe adult besides the police officer there. And so to me, Lauren, her daughter, when Kendra tells her that it was her, or when the police officer kind of vaguely says, "We figured out who it was your mom." Lauren is just sitting there and she seems disconnected to me, just completely checked out and disconnected. Patricia's question, do you think with maturity the daughter will realize that what Kendra has done makes her dangerous? And so that could cause somebody a lot of depression. So for her to think, if right now, because let's say Lauren is 16 or 17 right now, and if right now, if she was to think your mother is never going to be a safe person for you, that might be too strong of a thought, because that thought could bring on serious um, depression, anxiety. That thought could really cause a lot of damage. And so that's where, as a therapist, I would at least want Lauren to know at this moment, it doesn't seem so if this was true, at this moment, it doesn't seem like your mom is a safe person. And right now, prioritizing your mental health and your safety is what's best. How do we find ways that that mother wound that you have, how can we address that? I would want to address those things, um, and I would want to build Lauren up, and, because down the road, I don't know, like, 'cause it will be up to Lauren whether she decides to ever have a relationship with her mother or not, especially after she turns 18. I don't think there was any court order that banned, like, contact for 10 years or 20 years. Sometimes that happens in some cases. I also, in my last video, we didn't talk about gender bias. So, I personally feel, I don't know that it's true, but I personally feel if it had been Lauren's dad that had been the one doing all of this, I think the sentence likely would have been worse. Or if it had been a teacher, so if it had been somebody that wasn't related to one of the children, I think the sentence would have been even worse. The sad thing that sometimes happens in our justice system is that when people harm their own children, sometimes and there was also Owen, so it wasn't only her child, it was also the other boy too. But sometimes people think if we just protect that person's child and don't let them have access to their child anymore, then everybody else will be safe. Like, that's sometimes I don't know what the thought is with that. But normally sentencing is worse when it's a stranger and it happens to somebody else, like when it's not somebody related to them. Despite the fact we know research has shown that harm caused by somebody in your family, somebody close to you, that is much harder. It's healing is possible, but that wound is much deeper because it attacks the very fabric of what humans are wired to do. So we are wired to connect and love our parents. That is something innate. Like, they've they've tried it where so there was a rhesus monkeys experiment where they gave there was a wire monkey and there was a soft monkey, and the wire monkey had food, and then but the soft monkey was just comforting, and and the monkey automatically wanted the comfort. And so we are wired to want to bond, to want to connect, to want to be loved. That is something that is natural and normal. How do we heal when the person that you're wired to love is also your harmer? And so certain words I can't say on YouTube. I want to say a stronger word, but I can't say it because it's YouTube. All right. um Make sure to put questions if you have questions that you all have, please let me know. I'm so glad that we get all of this out. And I don't want to say that there's no safety, because there is a way to get safe. It just takes a little bit more work. So I'm a believer that if something isn't okay, for the people to tell everyone. I was so proud of the kids that when they received those messages, that one of the first things they did was they went to their parents. They went to the school. They went to the police. The FBI ended up getting involved. But then turns out one of the parents is the ones that was like causing the harm. So that's where the mind gets blown a little. But that's what's supposed to happen. When something isn't okay, I want my child to know that they can come to me. And if they come to me and things still aren't okay, I want them to go to their teacher. I want them to go to their school counselor. I want them to keep telling until they're safe. Because when harm happens, the person can sometimes think, did I do something? What did I do? And the one thing that I hope that Lauren knows is that it wasn't her fault. She didn't do anything wrong. And let's say her mom was triggered by how, like, beautiful Lauren was. That's not Lauren's fault. Like, Lauren, like, so whatever was happening in the mother, it was her job to heal that. That was on her 100%. Okay. I wanted to say that. Um I know. And so I did think that there were times that Lauren made statements that just where she was saying that, she doesn't believe I because Kendra tries to say that somebody else started the messages and she's the one that did them towards the end or something. Like, Kendra, I don't believe. Lauren says she thinks it was her mom the entire time. And so there were things that Lauren said that I thought made it just made me feel like could see what was going on. I also think that she's a kid that just wants to love her mom and has to do the but and. So I love my mom, and at the same time, she has to prove that she's a safe, stable person. I want a mom figure, and at the same time, my mom might not be in a place, and that's where juggling that can be really difficult. There's a type of therapy that can be really effective in addressing that. It's called radical acceptance. And if you look over on Nate Eaton's Instagram page, he has a few quotes from CrimeCon. Colby Ryan, Lori Vallow's son, only surviving child, gave an interview. It looked like it was a panel. And one of the comments that he made was talking about radical acceptance. So, what is radical acceptance? Radical acceptance is saying, like, it's not fighting reality. So, it's being able to accept the reality. So, for Colby, his reality is that his mother has been convicted of unaliving his sister, brother, her he was Charles Vallow was her husband at the time, attempting um on her brother-in-law, and that his mother is I don't think she's ever going to accept responsibility. So Colby's older, and so I think he's further along in the journey of accepting who his mother is and just how harmful she is. Um for Lauren, it makes it a little bit more difficult because there are times where Kendra seems to because Kendra didn't do the whole trial, but I think she got a plea deal. And when people ask, why do I think the other families agreed to participate? So those families didn't get their day in court. the Owen's mother, during the victim impact statement portion of sentencing, she talked about, wanting to make sure, like, because she didn't get to tell her story, she included some details and information that she thought was important to get out there. And I think she also did that during the docuseries as well. I also, as we watch like documentaries, please know there are things that were left on the cutting room floor. There were aspects, there were things that were not included in the final cut of the movie. And so I would love to see, and we're never going to see it, just being nosy. I would love to know what things weren't included, because the producers are trying to tell this cohesive story, and they're trying to like make things work where it'll work for a show. But sometimes things that don't fit the narrative or don't fit what they're trying to say, sometimes that gets cut out. So let's say Lauren did make some really strong negative comments about her mom or something. Um, that might have been cut out. I don't know that it was. We don't know what else was happening there. So yeah. Bandits Ghosts, I see your comment. I work with individuals that have been adopted or that have kinship care, where for a period of time, a birth parent may not be able to care for their child, and there are other family members that step up to support. So I did an adoption competency. So I'm an adoption competent therapist. One of the things that we research shows that even if a parent is not can't raise a child, if they're safe enough to still maintain some type of relationship, that's often helpful for the child, but they have to be safe enough. And that's, I give that big F, because sometimes that parent, it has their own stuff and they're not safe and stable enough to maintain a relationship. And so, yeah. Um and so was she diagnosed with it? So the way I saw it, there was an expert that mentioned cyber Munchausen. So remember, they had all these people interviewing people, and so I don't know what came up in court. So let me see. Let's see if good old Google knows. Was Kendra diagnosed with cyber Munchausen? Okay, so according to Google, I don't know if that's true. She was never formally diagnosed with cyber Munchausen by proxy or fictitious disorder imposed on another, but some legal investigators, said that that could have been the case. So, but she was never formally diagnosed with that, to my knowledge. And so, what was she diagnosed with? I don't know. I don't know what her actual diagnosis is. But once again, there is no diagnosis. Like, diagnosis just helps me try to see, but like the obsession with Owen is where that's the part that seems there's a strong word that I don't want to say here, but like a lot of people have put in the comments that like if you do something like this to children, maybe maybe it should be some type of, maybe it should be a crime. Maybe it should be a crime that is punished a lot harsher. That maybe requires somebody to have to register somewhere. Ah, so I have a whole video on AI. So AI and AI psychosis. Let me know if you haven't seen that one. I did do a video talking about AI psychosis. So I think so. Lauren was beautiful, and she had like she had a boyfriend. So that's how I felt. And a lot of other mental health people, professionals, have talked about seeing that Kendra was likely jealous of Lauren, because so she's sitting here calling her daughter, okay, trigger warnings for food and body stuff. She's sitting here calling her daughter anorexic and then later trying to say, "Oh, I was projecting those feelings onto my daughter because I wasn't eating enough, because I wasn't happy with my body." And it's just like, what? And when Kendra, the mother, had the nerve to be like, "I know my daughter well enough to know that she wouldn't have ever," okay. So trigger warnings for because in the messages, the cyber stalker tells Lauren to unalive herself. And Kendra is over here trying to be like, "Oh no, I know my daughter. I know she would have never done that." And so I work with people that have those types of ideations, that have those types of difficulties. And if they had a parent, like that always makes it 10 times worse when you have a parent doing those types of things. All right. I hope that was helpful. Yeah, so I think they were just trying to describe what that type of behavior could have been. So within the Gypsy Rose case or Maya Kowalski case, sometimes like that Munchausen syndrome, those cases brought that diagnosis to the forefront. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I've never diagnosed Munchausen. It's often reviewing a lot of medical records because the most common type is medical. It's normally the parent of a small child that's bringing them to the doctor for every little thing. Children that have like lists of all these medical conditions, and then once they're removed from the parent, they realize, oh, this is a healthy child. Or maybe this child, maybe they have diabetes, but maybe they don't have asthma and like the 20 other things that they supposedly had. And in severe cases of this, there are some parents that will use things to make the children sick. So that's where the whole cyber Munchausen thing came from. But she was never officially diagnosed with that. I'm glad that was helpful. All right. Yeah. And while and that's where the whole jealousy, the way it came out was harmful. Was extremely harmful. And Patricia, I agree, but I think it should not only be an emotional crime. I would have if those things were reported to me and I saw those messages, I also would have reported it for I can't say the word on YouTube, for SA as well. I would have reported it for just to see if CPS determined if it was that too. Uh just the nature of those messages, like that was a lot. There are women who become jealous and angry at their daughters. Ah, so is that a question? So is there, or maybe that was a comment? Starfish and coffee, let me know if that was a question or if that was just a comment. Because also, just because something doesn't meet the legal criteria doesn't mean that it wasn't experienced by that person that way. So, and the reason why I say that is, um, I've worked cases that have gotten close to the line. The child experiences it as harmful, and social services might say there's not enough there. We're going to give the family some resources. We're going to recommend the parent do an anger management, or we're going to recommend the parent do therapy or something like that. And so, yeah. Welcome, welcome. Feel free to go back to the beginning or you can start from here. It is totally up to you. We are starting to wrap up. Please let me know if you all have any last minute questions on this. This was an incredibly troubling documentary. Like I said, one of the most troubling things I've watched in a very long time. I also didn't feel like there was a good resolution at the end, so, like, it just kind of ended, and I think the producers tried, but I don't think there was a good way to end it because the facts of the case, just make you mad, and you're just like, "What did I just watch?" And yes. Alright, alright. And so let me know if y'all have any last minute questions. Thank you to everybody that has subbed from that last video. If you are new to my channel, I'm Dr. Barry. I am a clinical psychologist. I cover true crime and psychology here. I am not here to justify behavior. Like, so I am really here to help. So the people I work with desperately want help. And I hate it when I hear uh, diagnoses getting thrown around and getting like a bad rap when individuals make choices. And I think the choices we make are incredibly important. And while we can't control what happens to us, we are responsible for our own healing. And I share resources on the resource tab. I shared one recently that a lot of people found helpful. Let me pull it up because it was by Nadia. Let me go to that post tab. Do, do, do. Here we go. Yes. Because naming is different than blaming. And what we're doing here today is we are naming this is problematic. And to me, Kendra is responsible for her healing. And if the consequence from everything that she did and everything that's happened is that she doesn't have a relationship with her daughter, she has to cope and deal with that and manage that and be a safe, stable person that is honest and that is able to be trusted. Sometimes forgiveness will come up. And to me, forgiveness is not reconciliation. Forgiveness is not letting it go or saying it didn't matter. But so sometimes people look at acceptance versus forgiveness, which is like whatever language people use is fine. Um, Maybe we should do a video on jealous moms in general. That on, like, how to cope with it, on, like, if you were a daughter and you had a jealous mother or yeah, because the mom that's jealous probably wouldn't watch the video. Yes, I agree, Sarah. Forgiveness looks different for every person. Want you to know. Nice, nice. And so, Phoenix, thank you for checking out my book. Some of y'all may not know I have a book, Turning Crisis into Clarity: How to Survive or Thrive in the Midst of Uncertainty, available on Amazon. I wrote it in the midst of the Rona, but in general, it just provides steps for when you're going through something difficult. Sometimes you get clarity, sometimes there's confusion. And in the midst of the confusion, like, how can we find some clarity? And if I was working with Lauren, one of the first things we would do is helping her to understand that number one, what happened to her was not her fault. Number two, like that now she can, because she has to find safety in relationships. Because things like this can really make it difficult to trust other people, to trust relationships. And so we would work there. And then we would also just work on the if there were any somatic, so if they were having trouble sleeping or eating, or if there were any things that were coming up. Um ugh. If I was Lauren and I watched that documentary back, having those messages read, because reading something is different than hearing it. And to me, hearing it as well can sometimes make it stick more or make it a lot harder. And so it is so important. Yes. Boundaries are incredibly important. There's a great book by Nedra Glover Tawwab on boundaries. Set boundaries, find peace. It's incredibly important. She also has a second book, Drama Free Family, and it's not about because there will always be some drama, but it's like how can I find peace in the midst of it? And so I so appreciate it. Yeah. So I've seen some people joking on TikTok about like if it had been a different parent, and that so somebody mentioned they knew it was likely a parent because the parents didn't take their phone. But there was a part of me that was like, well, sometimes my kid does after school activities, so they have a phone. And it's just this whole thing was just a lot. It was a lot. Please know after this video at 3 o'clock, I am going to be live with Paul. If you watch the Donna Adelson trial, we will be talking about the verdict. And there is a juror interview. So one of the jurors, she's released TikTok videos. I don't know if we're going to talk about that or not. I've been in the comments on other people talking about it. I thought the juror did a phenomenal job. She was the foreperson. And now, after the fact, after she's been released and she can talk about what her experience, she was talking about it. And so I appreciated that. Um, so Sarah asks, is it attention seeking? Are you saying so? Can you clarify if people doing the videos are attention seeking or if Kendra was attention seeking? I truly thought that the cousin talking in the show gave a lot of good information about just Kendra's history as reported by that cousin. But it reminds me of people talking about Lori Vallow when she was younger and how she would get jealous of other people and just kind of some of the things that happened there. I do wonder that if if Kendra hadn't been caught, how things could have escalated even more. I there is a part of me that wonders that. Yeah, so was Kendra attention seeking? So that's where I think there was an obsession with Owen. And so I don't know if the whole town getting riled up over who is it, who could it be, and she knows that it's her. And then also, like, she's able to whatever that fantasy was, that was not appropriate. Owen was a child and he deserves safety. And so that the whole thing with Owen was a lot for me. It was a lot. And so, did I see Dr. G's analysis of Donna's verdict? Yes. So, we were right that she was faking her reaction. Yes, I love Dr. G explains. He does a phenomenal job, and I really enjoyed. So he has a video just going over Donna's like she just seemed mad. She just seemed really mad. And so I will be talking with Paul from Reporting Live from My Sofa at 3 p.m. You will automatically be redirected there. If you want to do something else, please feel free to enjoy the rest of your day. We wish Donna 120 years. As Mr. Markel so beautifully put it, we wish her 120 years. I thought that was wow. So I appreciate you all. I will see you all next time. Thank you all. I hope you have a great day. Bye.